What do you know about the weather?
Well, I know that it happens outside, in the air.
Right, in the air. We call the blanket of air that surrounds the Earth the atmosphere. But what do we know about the air? After all, we can't see it.
But we can breathe it. And we can feel it with the wind.
And sometimes there are clouds in the air. That's weather, right?
Wind and clouds. Sounds like an excellent topic for our weather-watching kids around the world. Learning about the weather is just like learning about anything else. You have to investigate. Are you ready? Okay then, let's go. Wind. It's all around us. It flies our kites, sails our boats, and gives a lift to wandering seeds. It's an easy breeze or an angry storm. You can feel the wind when it blows against your face. And you can see the wind when flags wave and leaves on trees flutter. You can also see the wind by watching clouds move across the sky. Because when clouds move, it's wind that's pushing them. Before we can understand wind and clouds, we need to know just what weather is in the first place. To make weather, you need 3 simple ingredients: air, sunshine, and water.
Sounds pretty simple, but how does it work?
Well, to put it simply, the sunshine heats the earth, and the earth heats the air. Water in the air is what makes clouds, as well as rain, snow, and ice that can fall to the ground.
That sure sounds like weather to me. But how does wind fit in?
Wind is air that's moving sideways. This can happen down low near the ground or high up in the sky. Winds blow over land, over oceans, even over mountains.
So wind is moving air. But what is air made of?
Yeah, even though air is invisible, we can feel it when the wind blows. It must be made of something.
It is. Let's check it out. Take a deep breath. Do you know what you just breathed in?
I'm guessing just regular old air.
But did you know that air is made of gases? Mostly nitrogen and oxygen, and water in the form of a gas called water vapor. There's even dust in the air we breathe. All these particles in the air are too small to see.
So air is really lots of tiny, invisible particles.
Right. And air even has weight, just like bigger particles you can see, like, say, sand.
But why does the wind blow?
Now that's a question that will take some investigation. Meteorologists are scientists who study the weather. They call the weight of the air pressure, and that weight is always changing from place to place and from day to day. Some air is heavier, that's high pressure, and some air is lighter, that's low pressure.
I get it, but what does air pressure have to do with wind?
The general rule is air always moves away from higher pressure and toward lower pressure. That air moving sideways is wind. And the difference in pressure or weight of air is what makes air move. Here's an easy way to see what we're talking about. These 2 water tanks are connected at the bottom by a small tube. Now think of the water as air. Any ideas about the pressure in each tank?
Well, the tank that's filled up high has more weight, so that means it has high pressure.
Right, and the tank where the water is low has less weight, so it has low pressure.
Very good. Now, what do you think will happen when we open the tube?
Wow! The water is moving through the tube, from the high pressure tank to the low pressure tank.
But why does it move?
Well, the truth is, nature loves balance. And whenever things are out of balance, nature moves them to try and balance things out. It works the same way with air. There are lots of different kinds of winds. Some winds blow near the ground and some blow way up high in the sky. And winds blow at different speeds, too. The faster the wind, the stronger it is. In fact, winds are named for how strong they are, like
Calm, gentle breeze, strong breeze, gale, storm, and hurricane.
some winds are very predictable. They blow the same direction nearly all the time. Some of these winds are high up in the sky, and they usually blow from west to east. High up in the atmosphere is a strong, fast-moving river of wind called the jet stream. Even though there can be changes in the jet stream from day to day, it always blows from west to east around the world. When airplanes fly in the same direction as the jet stream, it takes about 8 hours to fly from New York to Paris. But making the return trip flying against the jet stream, it takes about 2 hours longer to travel the same distance.
Now that's a strong wind.
If winds blow at different speeds, how do we know how fast the wind is blowing? Meteorologists use a device called an anemometer to measure wind speeds. And for a demonstration, we're going to need an expert. Meet Dr. John Neese, Chief Meteorologist at the Franklin Institute Science Museum in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Well, think of an anemometer as sort of like a fan. When the wind blows, the blades of the fan start to circulate or spin. If you connect up those spinning blades to some sort of a device that gives us a measure of the wind, it might be a scale with a pointer, or it could be an electronic device that shows the speed of the wind in color numbers. And meteorologists need to know both the direction and the speed of the wind in order to figure out the weather patterns in their area. Here's an anemometer that's so small that you could actually put it in your pocket and carry it around with you up and down the streets. And if you'll do that, you'll find out that the speed of the wind is changed depending on what side of the building you're on, or whether you're on a road that cuts between two tall buildings. It's amazing the different wind speeds that you can find in various parts of the city.
Another important thing to know about the wind is which direction it's blowing in.
Well, we could stick our finger in the air, but I'm guessing that's not how it's done in the weather world.
No. But finding the direction of the wind is something kids can do themselves. Here's how. A weather vane is what's used to measure the direction the wind is blowing. Here's how you can make your own weather vane with the help of an adult. You'll need a wooden mop or broom handle, a 12-inch piece of wood or a wooden ruler, a nail, a hammer, an aluminum pie pan, a metal washer, glue, a small saw or serrated knife, scissors, and a compass. First, the adult cuts a thin slit into each end of the small stick, like this. The slits should be about ½ inch deep. Then the adult hammers a long nail right through the middle of the stick. The nail needs to be long enough to go all the way through the stick with an inch or so to spare. Now carefully cut out the weather vane's arrow and tail from a pie pan. The pieces should look like this. Glue the arrow into one of the slits on the stick and glue the tail into the other. Put the washer on the end of the wooden handle and have your adult helper hammer the nail that's in the middle of the stick through it, into the end of the handle. Turn the stick around the nail several times until it turns very easily. When you're done, your weather vane should look like this. You can stick the weather vane into the ground or tie it to something sturdy like a fence. The main thing is to make sure it isn't sheltered from the wind and that it can turn freely. But before you can take your first reading, you'll need to mark the directions. Here's where the compass comes in. Ask the adult to use the compass to find which direction is north. Mark it on the top of the stick, just under your spinning arrow. Do the same for south, east, and west. Your weather vane is now ready to be put into use. The arrow on the weather vane always points into the wind. So when the arrow is pointing to the south mark, you know the wind is blowing from the south. That's how winds are named, for the direction they blow from. Give it a try.
Let's see. First reading. The arrow is pointing right between the north and the west marks.
That means a northwest wind is blowing.
Very good. You've just made a real working weather vane. Let's check what we've learned about wind.
Wind is the movement of air sideways over the earth. This can happen near the ground and high up in the sky.
Check.
Air has weight, and the weight of the air is called air pressure.
Check.
Air pressure can be different from place to place. Wind is the flow of air from high pressure areas to low pressure areas.
Check.
And the direction and strength of the wind help determine our weather.
Check. Looks like you've got wind covered. The North Pole and South Pole don't get as much heat from sunlight, so they stay very cold. But the part of the Earth halfway between the poles, called the equator, gets the most sunlight, so it's the hottest part of the Earth overall. So winds that blow from the poles usually bring cool air, while winds that blow from the equator can often bring warm air. That's important because when warm air and cool air meet, the weather can get a bit stormy.
Stormy, that means clouds.
Looking up at the sky can be fun. Everyone sees something different in the clouds.
That one looks like a giant horse.
I see a castle.
I see my Aunt Millie's mashed potatoes.
The reason everyone sees clouds differently is because there are many different kinds of clouds.
And the wind is always blowing clouds around.
But what are clouds?
Remember that the air is partly made of water.
Right, water vapor, which we can't see.
The sun heats up the ground, and the ground heats up the air.
And that makes it rise.
Exactly. And the higher the air rises, the cooler it gets. When it cools off enough, the water vapor in the air changes back into tiny liquid water droplets. This process is called condensation. The droplets cling to little bits of stuff in the air, like dust, and pretty soon, all those droplets combine to form a cloud.
So a cloud is really water in the air that we can see.
Right. When warm air meets cold air, you can often see the moisture. Like when you see the steam rising off your hot chocolate on a cold day. That's the warm, moist air of the cocoa mixing with the much cooler air around you. Or when you have a cold drink on a warm day. The warm, moist air hits the glass, and the water vapor turns into water on the sides of the glass.
Cool. Warm. Well, that's pretty amazing.
It sure is. But for an even more amazing look at how clouds form, let's go visit with Dr. Neese.
Well, to get a cloud, you absolutely have to have water in the air. Meteorologists call this invisible water in the air water vapor. Now, in the real atmosphere, the way most clouds form is that air near the ground rises thousands of feet into the air, and as it rises, it cools. And that's why we see most clouds forming thousands of feet above the ground. Now, if we want to make a cloud inside, we have to cool the air in a different way. So let's first start with some moist air. How do we get the moist air? Here's some boiling water. We'll pour the boiling water into the wok. Now, the reason we need hot water is because we want the air above the water to become very warm, but most importantly, very moist. Lots of invisible water vapor in the air, and you have to have that before you can get a cloud. Then, all we need to do is cool the air. So we'll pour a very cold substance, liquid nitrogen, right onto the air. The air will cool instantly to a very low temperature, and we'll get a spectacular cloud. Wow, now that's a cloud. We can even make the cloud a little better here by breathing into the cloud. After all, your breath is warm, moist air, so we're just adding some extra warmth and some extra water vapor to the air. Also, did you see that after the first few seconds of the cloud, some of it started to spill out over the edge of the wok? Once the air got too cold, cold air sinks, and so the cloud starts to spill out toward the floor, forming a fog. And in the end, we're left with just a calm fog like the kind you might see out over the meadow or over a lake.
As more and more moist air rises and cools, clouds get bigger and bigger, and the water droplets in them get bigger and heavier. If the droplets get too heavy for the cloud to hold, they fall back to the earth as
Rain, snow, sleet, hail.
all of the above, depending on how cold the air is. Either way, it's called precipitation. Water falling from a cloud back to the earth. If the air near the ground is warm, it falls as rain. If the air is freezing or colder, it falls as snow, sleet, or hail. But did you know that most rain starts out as ice? It's so cold high up in many storm clouds, even in the middle of summer, that the water droplets freeze. If it's warm enough closer to the ground, the ice melts and turns into rain on the way down. It's easy to think of clouds as just a sign of bad weather, but without clouds, the world would be a pretty dry place. Clouds are part of the water cycle, the process of recycling water on the earth so we can use it over and over again. The water cycle has 3 steps. Evaporation. Water turns into water vapor when heated by the sunlight. Condensation. The water vapor in the air cools and turns back into water, forming clouds. And precipitation. The water falls back to the earth from the clouds. The water cycle never stops. It's always happening all around us. When clouds appear, it's a sign that the water cycle is working and that fresh water is on its way back down to the ground.
I get it now. When the water vapor cools, it becomes visible again, and we have clouds.
But I still got a question. Why don't all clouds look the same?
Because there are many different kinds of clouds, and each one can tell us something different about the weather. Clouds are named because of how they look. For example, low gray clouds that spread out across the sky and block the sun are called stratus clouds. Stratus means layered.
It's a giant layer of clouds.
Right. Stratus clouds can cover huge areas and can bring light drizzle or rain. These puffy white piles of clouds are called cumulus clouds, which makes sense since cumulus means heap. Cumulus clouds usually mean dry weather, no rain or snow. But if they grow much bigger and darker, they can become cumulonimbus.
Uh-oh, looks like trouble.
It sure does. Nimbus means rain, so cumulonimbus means...
A heap of rain?
That's right! In other words, it's a thundercloud that can bring heavy rain, strong winds, and lightning. The highest clouds in the sky are cirrus clouds.
Don't tell me. Cirrus means way up high?
Actually, cirrus means curls, like curly hair. These clouds are very thin and wispy, and often appear with big curls from winds blowing high in the sky. Cirrus clouds are made of ice, and the sun shines right through them. When we see these clouds, it's usually sunny and dry, but they can be a signal that precipitation is headed our way in the near future. Here's a riddle for you. How can you be right in the middle of a cloud, but still have your feet on the ground?
If you're really, really tall?
If you make your own cloud?
If the cloud is really, really low?
Yes, actually, that's right. If the air near the ground is damp enough and the ground is cool enough, a cloud can form. And the name of a cloud that forms on the ground? We call that fog. Fog often forms over water like streams, rivers, or lakes, or over land when it cools off at night. We've learned an awful lot about wind and clouds, but what does it all mean? How do they affect us?
Wind and clouds are both part of the weather, and that affects us every day.
Birds use powerful winds to help them when they fly long distances, just like the jet airplanes we saw.
Other things catch a ride on the wind too. Some seeds are made especially for riding the breeze. The wind carries them to a place where they can grow.
Wind can also blow away sand and dirt. Over many years, this can actually change the face of the earth. And wind is a clean, free source of energy. Not only can it move sailboats, dry clothes, and fly kites, wind can power windmills to make electricity. But the most important job of the wind is the one we can see every day when we look up in the sky, pushing clouds around.
Clouds can bring precipitation, rain, snow, or ice. And knowing the direction and speed of the wind can help meteorologists tell which weather patterns might be coming our way.
Sometimes wind and clouds can do damage, lots of damage. Remember that wind and clouds are created when there are differences in air pressure and temperature. Sometimes these differences are so extreme, they create extreme weather. Like hurricanes, these huge windstorms form over warm oceans where they pick up lots of moisture. That means lots of clouds and rain. All that wind and rain can do a lot of damage to houses, trees, and anything else in the hurricane's path. Tornadoes are even more extreme, but they are tiny compared to hurricanes. They form when winds in a thunderstorm start to spin very fast. This creates a funnel-shaped cloud that touches the ground. The winds from the strongest tornadoes move so fast that they can destroy almost anything in their path. And sometimes they can move animals, people, even cars and houses. Tornadoes are very dangerous. If there is ever a tornado warning where you are, go to a basement or the middle of a building and stay put until the storm is past. Okay, weather watchers, time for a final check on what we've learned about wind and clouds.
We learned that wind is air moving sideways over the earth. It moves from areas of higher air pressure to areas of lower air pressure. Wind is what moves weather around the planet.
And that usually means moving clouds. Clouds are created when the air rises and cools, and the water vapor in the air turns into tiny water droplets. When those droplets get too heavy, they fall back to the earth as rain, snow, or ice.
Clouds are part of the water cycle. Evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. That's how water gets from the oceans onto the land.
With a little help from the wind.
Wow, I couldn't have said it better myself.